PortAventura World is located just south of Barcelona in Spain, and this is an amazing theme park resort. I'll be doing a separate review of Ferrari Land, but for now I just want to talk about the main park, and man is there a lot to talk about. Most of it is good, not all of it. There are a few things I do think that this park really could do better. However, for the most part, I loved this place. Easily one of the best parks in Europe. In a lot of ways, I liked this place more than Europa Park. Because while I would compare Europa Park more to Disney, this place feels like a universal park. There were some times where I was walking around in one of the themed areas and I was like, I feel like I'm in Islands of Adventure right now. Because what this park does is it has huge roller coasters, these amazing thrill rides, some of the best theming in the world, in so many picturesque photo opportunity locations. Like, you'll just be walking around a random land and you'll be like, man, this just looks stunning. I'm talking about that back section of the park with Shambhala and Dragon Con, or the lake towards the center with Furious Baco. I mean, heck, even their kids area is really elaborately themed. They definitely spared no expense. This park is absolutely gorgeous. And it's in a stunning location. PortAventura World is located right near the water. So when you're in Shambhala Station, you can look out and see the coast. And when you're up at the top, you look left and boom, it's just this massive body of water. So as a result of being so close to the water, you also got a lot of wind. It just felt very cool there. The temperature when we went was like perfect. But because of the natural landscape of this part of Spain, there were also palm trees, lots of trees in general. But there weren't trees everywhere because that wasn't like the main point of beauty of PortAventura. What I thought they really did well was theming. I mean, look at all of the buildings. They're so wonderful. And you go to some areas, there's rock work, even theming around the specific attractions. Each of the coasters kind of has a set theme. Probably the weirdest is Furious Baco, which is essentially themed to a monkey who pulls the wrong lever, thus igniting a catapult, meaning the professor does not get his alcohol. Yeah, if that made no sense to you, good, because it doesn't make any sense to us either. But like Dragon Con is in the Chinese section. Shambhala is themed to like an expedition into the mountains. Tomahawk is themed to, well, a tomahawk, but you get the idea. So PortAventura is made up into several main lands. So your entry area is kind of like your Italian theme section, but you also got the Old West, China, Polynesia, Mexico, and then like Central America. My favorite sections are Italy and China, but all of them are done like really quite well. The other thing that is really nice about this place is that they have each of those distinct themes, but there's a flawless transition from one land to another. And what I liked about each of the lands is that they included certain things to help you realize that you're in that section. Like China, the pathway leading towards Dragon Con and Shambhala is the Great Wall of China. And you look down and you see pandas everywhere. Like, it's very obvious that you're in China. So I've talked a lot about the theming and the good things about it. Now I kind of want to mention some of the things I thought were a little quirky or maybe not so good. This first thing, this may just be a cultural thing or something that you'll find in Europe, but as an American, something I noticed that I thought was a little unusual was that in places where you'd think that there would be like a fence or something, there isn't. So for instance, if there was a path and then you have a stream right next to it, common sense would be that there's like some sort of fence preventing people from just like hopping in the stream. But at PortAventura, there really isn't. Or like when you're over by Dragon Con, there isn't really a fence kind of separating you from the ride. In a way, there's kind of a natural barrier, but if like you really wanted to, you could easily just hop over and walk on up to it. And the same goes for the stream. You could easily just like hop in the stream. And that isn't like all throughout the park. Like I mentioned, they have some like obvious like natural barriers. There is one point when you're in the Old West section, they have like a bridge going over some water. Like that's obvious because I mean, a bridge is going to have guardrails to prevent you from falling in because that's like an obvious hazard. But there are some areas that it's like, okay, maybe there should be like a fence there, but there isn't. Something I personally did not like about PortAventura is that anytime I needed water, I would go up to one of the water fountains and they almost never worked. I think I found one water fountain in the whole park that worked and the water tasted terrible. So the conclusion I draw from that is that either they don't want to pay their water bill or this is all just some sort of giant grand scheme to get us to buy a water bottle. But that kind of leads to another point is that the food is not that great here. or at least some of the places I went. I was not really impressed with the food. I'm sure there's like some areas where you can actually get like pretty good stuff, but I was at PortAventura World for 2 days, and for the most part, I did not really like the food. First of all, a lot of the food places were just flat out closed. Like not even open, and it was like a pretty busy day. But there were some times where I would get food and it would come out cold, or it just didn't really taste good, and like all of it was expensive. So for me, that was kind of the main downside with PortAventura. I was not a fan of my food experience at this park. Because a big resort like this, you would think that they would spend some time and get some like decent food locations. Now, we did stay on site, and there they did have a breakfast buffet, and we got a dinner buffet at one point, and that was pretty good, but that was also like really expensive. So maybe I just didn't eat at the right food places when I was in the park, but that was just something I noticed. Another thing I was not personally a fan of with PortAventura is that they are really pushing this whole Woody Woodpecker thing. Maybe he's like obnoxiously huge in Spain or something, but oh my gosh, I feel like they were kind of shoving it down our throats. Every single gift shop in this park is filled to the brim with Woody Woodpecker merch. I loved PortAventura, and I was looking to buy a shirt. So I went in all of the gift shops in the park, and I found maybe 2 shirts that said PortAventura on it, and they were both ugly. Like, I'm sorry, I think that's a problem because I would be spending money on something like that, but because your merchandise selection is not very good, you just lost some money with that. Like, sorry, not sorry, but I am not buying a Woody Woodpecker hat, sunglasses, shirt, shorts, shoes, or socks. I already look like a tourist enough. That is the last thing I need. So yeah, merchandise at PortAventura sucks. Talking a little bit about the roller coasters. On a busy day, they were running 1 train. They were running 2 trains when it was not as busy. Where's the logic in that? In my opinion, I think it is because they're trying to encourage buying skip the line passes. They're like, oh, well, we'll just run 1 train. It'll make the lines really long, and then we'll make more money. Which very well could be their logic, because actually we had skipped the line passes both days we were at PortAventura, and man, they were awesome. The first day we had a one-time use skip the line pass. You could use it once at any of the roller coasters, and then the next day we had unlimited skip the line passes. And it was great. So as much as I am always reluctant to spend money to skip the lines, I think that if you are at PortAventura on a really crowded day, that is something that you should consider. Because man, it made my experience at this place that much better. So I actually highly recommend fast passes. Another downside with the roller coasters is that they don't really have preferred seating. They're actually pretty strict about it. Like sometimes they wouldn't even take requests for a certain row. Every once in a while they would, but oftentimes they won't even let you like wait for a certain row. So it's pretty much just like, okay, well, go to that row. Well, can I sit over here? No, go to this row. I'm like, well, that's dumb. But I guess that is another perk of when you have the skip the line pass. It's like, okay, well, at least I didn't wait 30 minutes for a middle seat. I waited 5 minutes for a middle seat, and then I'll just go back around again and hope for a better row. So that's really kind of my last main point with PortAventura. To just kind of sum it up, I mean, this place is gorgeous. They've done a beautiful job with theming and landscaping. Everything looks nice. If there was ever a place that really immersed you in the themed land and kind of made you realize you're like, oh, I don't even think I'm at a theme park. I'm actually in the Old West, or I'm actually in China. This is kind of one of those places that I feel like does that really well. I mentioned I had 2 days at PortAventura. I would have not been opposed to a third. I genuinely enjoyed my time here, and this is a park that when I walked away at the end of my second day, I said, I know that at some point in my life, guaranteed I will come back here, because it is worth traveling from one country to another to go here. Granted, I think it is nice when you do a few other things along the way. That really makes it seem worth it. But, I mean, this was a park that growing up, it was always on my bucket list. I saw pictures of PortAventura and I said, man, this place looks so cool. I want to go here so bad. So going to this park really was a dream come true. I absolutely loved it. And as I mentioned, I know for a fact at some point I will go back here. But that's just my take on PortAventura, the massive theme park located in eastern Spain. Let me know if you've been here, if it's been on your bucket list for a while, if you have plans to go here. And of course, you can stay tuned for more park reviews. I have lots of more reviews coming soon from other parks I visited in Europe. So stay tuned for those, and I'll catch you guys next time.